Hey, future York students!
I'm Sidel.
And I'm Neetha.
And welcome to the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies Program Chat Series.
We want you to know that here in LA&PS, you will study what you love and learn what you need.
In this chat, you'll be hearing from future professors as well as current students about the program.
What it has to offer you, like internship opportunities.
And what your first year in the program may look like.
Alright, should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Enjoy, everybody.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Liberal Art and Professional Study Program Chat. Today, we're going to be talking about one of our more interesting programs in the faculty, our program in Work and Labor Studies. Before we start talking about the program, I would like to take a moment to talk a little bit about the land that York University is located on. This meeting is virtual, and because of that, we are not all actually gathered in the same space. York's land acknowledgement might not represent the territory that you are currently on, and I would ask that if that is the case, that you each take the responsibility to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are on and its current treaty holders. As a member of the York University community, I recognize that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many Indigenous nations. The area known as Takaranto has been taken care of by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peacefully share and care for the Great Lakes region. Now I'd like to welcome a very special guest we have with us today. One of our professors from the Work and Labor Studies program, Professor Nastovsky. Good morning, Professor.
Morning. Thanks so much, Adam. Hi, everyone. My name is Professor Nastovsky, or you can call me Catherine. I am a professor in the Work and Labor Studies program, and I've been here for 3 years. But I've been teaching in labor studies. I've been teaching about work and workers' justice for probably about 15 years, both in universities and in the labor movement itself. In terms of a little bit more about myself, I am currently trying to homeschool my 8-year-old for this next wave. We'll see how that goes. And I love being at York, and I am very excited to meet all of you. So let's just turn now to the presentation. I'm just going to walk you through a bit about our program and why I think it's a great program and why you should major or minor in it. Thanks. Great, so I'll now give you a bit of a sense of the program. What is Work and Labor Studies, and what do we study? Why study it? So as Adam mentioned earlier, this is a timely topic that is in the news daily for everything from, will we move to remote completely, or thinking about things like 4-day work week, or and what it means, what it means to go to work. What kind of risk do we take going to work? I know I have many friends who are teachers right now and very stressed going to work, thinking about how they're actually putting their lives on the line going to work. But let me take a step back and think about why we're all here. Why are you here? Why are you coming to York? And I think for many of you, I wish I could talk to you right now, but I'm sure you would say, well, yeah, I want to have a good life. I want to have a good job. I'm really going to university so that I can have meaningful, fulfilling work, decent pay, decent hours, work-life balance. Right, all of these things, work is so critical to our health and well-being, the quality of life we're going to live, and how much we're going to enjoy our relationships, how stressed we are, and how much time we have for those that we care about. And so, really, work is what we're going to spend most of our lives doing. We are either there or we are thinking or talking about it at home. It intersects with almost every aspect of our lives, our health, our mental health, our well-being, our sense of ourselves. When we go and meet new people, or go on dates, one of the first questions is, what do you do? work is so critical to our sense of ourselves and how we are in the world. And so we explore current issues related to work in terms of working conditions, workers' justice, but also, thinking about, where one is born and what one looks like, how will that affect the kind of work they can expect, the kind of life they can expect as they go through their lives. And so we explore all of these various things from labor markets, policies, the law, labor laws, culture and art and community and resistance. And so it's a very dynamic program that touches on a huge range of topics from different disciplines, making connections from everything from history to economics to women's studies and so forth. Okay, some of the big questions within labor studies, you'll be introduced to this in the first year course, the future of work. What are some of the huge challenges today? Why do millennials expect to have more difficult futures than their parents or grandparents, for instance? Will robots replace us, right? There's a lot of discussion around AI. What does this all mean for the kinds of work we'll have in the future? Will we be liberated from work? Will we not have to work at all? And what might that look like in terms of how we survive and the distribution of wealth in society? The climate crisis, another big one. What do we do about this? What about the Green New Deal? Thinking about how we might transform work so we can actually remain on the planet. And COVID, as I had mentioned earlier, are these temporary? Are these, or will we see a completely transformed workplace? And finally, precarious work, the types of, not having stable work or low paid, multiple jobs, as I'm sure many of you have yourselves. How does that affect our health and well-being? These are some of the big questions that we look at. And all of these are embedded in this larger theme that really shapes our program, which is thinking about inequality, right? Work and inequality. Why does this exist? Why is there such inequality between types of work within wealth distribution? We live in a highly unequal world where these 8 men pictured here own the same amount, have the same amount of wealth as half the world's population, okay? Or 3.6 billion people. They have the same wealth as the lower 3.6 billion people in the world. So we live in a staggeringly unequal world. And we look at how we got there and how this relates to work. How did they get that money? Why do they have this kind of wealth? And why are others barely surviving? On the other side, on the flip side, we look at how we fight for justice as well. We look very, very closely. It's a very hands-on program where we look at, what are some of the strategies that workers have to actually fight for social, political, economic justice in this world. From strikes, mutual aid, unions, social movements, we look at all of those and how they intersect. Okay, so that's a little glimpse of the big picture issues that we tackle in the program. Now I'll take you inside the classroom. What makes our program, what's our learning environment? What does it look like? So I'll give you a few reasons why we have a very nice, close-knit community and a very safe, welcoming, and friendly learning environment that we create. And that is one of the advantages of having a small program, is that we do have we are able to really build a sense of community. Okay, I'm jumping ahead, so I will start from this. So first, we're learning from leading scholars, practitioners, and lawyers in the field. So all of the faculty in the program are connected in various ways to the work on the ground. So whether that be connections and joint research with unions or social movements or laws. Some are actually labor lawyers. So there's some experiential courses in the upper years where you actually work with a labor lawyer and do mock arbitrations and other kinds of labor law, mock labor law procedures in the course. So you really get a sense of what it looks like to do these kinds of jobs, what the fight for workers' justice actually looks like on the ground. Get firsthand knowledge from your professors. All right, the second, and I think the most important, one of the most important, is the sense of community that we create in the program. And so I think in a place like York, I think this is really special to have, to be able to create a small, close-knit community within the program. And so given the size of York and the demands that you are all juggling, I know, between work, home, and school life, it's often really difficult to find time or make the effort to create a community at York. And so you're just trying, you know, most of the time people are just trying to get through. And I totally understand that. And while it's pretty hard to create a community as close-knit as this one from the show community, you're probably not going to find that. But because of the huge range of courses that we have that are really small, so most of the courses that we have are in the third year and they're capped at about 35 students. And so it really means that you will be in classes with a lot of the same people throughout. So that really helps, I think, create a sense of community. You really get to know each other quite closely. Aside from the small classes and the interactive nature of our classes, we also really actively try to create a sense of community. As your professors, we create a sense of community through creating a range of events. Pictured here is one of the events in 2019 that was organized. It was a student conference that happened, a one-day conference where students got to share their thoughts, their ideas, have an exchange on a broad range of topics on their final essays, this was, and get to actually ask questions and really learn from each other. And so that's another example. And finally, the sense of community is also created through the Work and Labor Studies Student Association. So the Student Association is made up of 4 executive members, but there are other students who are active in it, and they organize a bunch of events from film series to alumni events where you get to meet and talk to and ask questions from alumni in the program who are labor lawyers, professors, union organizers, etc. So you can get a sense of what life after university could look like. They also do fun things like game nights and mentoring, like group study events, which also helps create a nice sense of community. All right. Another thing that's unique to our program is the extent to which we do experiential learning. We're quite hands-on and have a lot of co-op and work-based learning opportunities within the program. So there's a range of courses. You can have a look more on the website, and I'll go through a couple of them in a minute. There's 2 fourth-year courses where you actually go and work at a union or social justice organization for the year. Students usually really love this course. You really get a sense, you get pulled into meetings and different things, and you see the dynamics that play out within these workplaces. You also get to meet a whole range of folks doing very different jobs, from things like being a union negotiator to doing an education piece, or going and talking to workers at a workplace who are trying to organize a union, for instance. So you'll really get a sense and learn what these jobs look like and how change is made in a very practical way. All right. So these are some of the logos here, are some of the unions that we have longstanding relationships with that you may end up going in and working with in your fourth year. And in the picture here is our field trip. We did a field trip to Ottawa where we met with digital communications reps, union negotiators, and had a really great discussions with them about how they do the work that they do. Another feature of the program is working with your professors. So many of us have research grants to do research on a range of topics related to work and labor studies. And we often hire students to work with us on this research. And that could be doing a range of things, helping us do interviews or organizing, reading notes, reading archival notes and creating archival notes and things like that. Really interesting experience that is very transferable for your post-university lives. And finally, access to supportive staff. So we are a small program, but we're housed within a much larger program that has a huge range of resources, academic advisors, and so forth that are super lovely, and I know you'll love them too. Okay, so let's get into the actual courses. So that was a learning environment, right? Features of the learning environment, what your experience might look like. What are the actual courses? So we have organized our courses into what we call pathways. So there's 4 kind of large themes, and courses are situated in these themes. Now, you don't have to do courses in one area only. You can do whatever courses you want. We are one of the most flexible programs, leaving you a lot of room to move around and really study what you want to study, right? There's so many themes that we cover in the program, and so you can have a really, really delve into a whole range of things in the program. This, though, gives you a sense of what works together, what kind of builds upon one another in a very clear way. So that might be a way that you go through and organize how you might move through your degree. So picking 2 pathways and maybe focusing on courses in those 2 areas so that you have strong basis in those. And we can talk about those at any time. Professor Finelli and I are always around to talk to you about these various pathways and courses and help you get a sense of what your trajectory could look like. All right, so I'll take you through a bit of them. So the first one, labor law, power and policy. So here, students love this stuff, learning about the law, labor law, how it works, history, how we fight for changing the law, all of that. So that's a really one of the very popular courses in the program. Sex work, sexual labor, inequality in work, what we're looking at, delving really deep into that first slide that I showed with the 8 richest men, right? Where did that come from? How did we get there? And then another very hands-on practical course in terms of how we make change. What are the real nitty-gritty pieces involved in making change? How do we do a press release? How do we organize a demonstration? How do we actually develop a strategy? What makes sense? So all of these courses are very practically oriented and give you a huge range of knowledge around how the government works in regulating the labor force and how we change that as well. All right, going deeper into some of the bigger themes, the underlying themes, these next 2 pathways get into some of these deeper, bigger questions, such as the larger restructuring of the global labor force and thinking about things like globalization. Is globalization over? What does it even mean? we start with the basics, thinking about things like globalization. Right now, there's every day we hear about supply chain issues. This is, what are these supply chains, and where are the workers along these supply chains? And what are their working conditions? How do they relate to one another? We explore some of those issues and how people are building counter movements. Another piece, and I'll just point out one more course here, is the Living Wage Movements course, which is a very unique new course that we have in the program, where you're actually thinking about and reflecting on your own work experience. And this course is a hands-on co-op course at the 4th year level. And it's hard to get into, but if you're in work and labor studies, you'll be prioritized for this. So one thing to think about in terms of major, minor. Okay, I'll move to the next theme, climate crisis, migration, and the future of work. So here we have the labor studies co-op is in this wider theme where you're actually working with unions, thinking about how they're confronting things like climate crisis. I know last year there was a student working with the United Steelworkers on their Green Jobs campaign. So you get to do some hands-on work that even connects these course themes. Thinking about things like equality, inclusion in work, why does race and gender matter, citizenship? How does that affect the kind of work one might expect, the conditions what one might expect in the workforce? And then finally, creative labor, culture, and the digital workplace. So there's lots of crossover between these various, even between the pathways. So here we're looking more, even though in the future of work, you'll get introduced to some of these issues around the digital workplace, and then go into more depth on, take a specialized course on robots, automation, technology, or if you're into the arts, maybe you want to do a joint major between labor studies and you're in film. Here's maybe a pathway that works for you, where you're looking at music and film, popular culture, sports. You're thinking about these broader themes within culture more broadly. All right, and I'll end off by emphasizing that we are very much a hands-on program. Lots of ways that we bring this into the classroom. It's a major strength in our program. Aside from the co-op courses, which I mentioned, and the kind of activities we do, like mock parliament or mock arbitrations, field trips, meeting with union leaders and activists. We also gain experience in the classroom. We really try to embed experiential hands-on learning in the classroom through things like, role plays, for instance, where you're actually going and organizing someone in the workplace. And they can be these can be really fun and create for very dynamic classes where we're actually applying the work that we're reading about. And I think that because the classes are small and because students know each other, it works quite well in the program in terms of creating a space where people are not as anxious, being a bit silly in doing role plays with one another. And so I think it really creates a nice classroom environment, a very friendly one. And not only is the experience good, but I think it really does mean that this hands-on approach really means you're coming out with some really concrete skills that you can take into your life, whether in your activist life or or in your future jobs. So things like, designing a press release, working on, you are actually through these kind of activities that we do in the classroom, these applied activities, you're really, getting a chance to refine your oral, analytical, writing skills, collaboration skills, facilitation skills. We do all of that in the classroom, and these are all very transferable skills. So taking me to career options. So you can see these are some of the career options in labor studies. I'm not going to list them, but you can go through and see what some of them are. And a lot of these skills are very much that we emphasize in the program are very much sought after by employers in a range of these jobs. And so again, we have supportive staff and also supportive professors who are happy to talk to you about these possibilities, what they look like. Plus, you're going to get to meet them in the classroom. We almost every class we have guest speakers who come in from a range of these jobs. Plus, the alumni nights where you can talk to alumni from the program who are doing these various types of jobs and figure out if that's for you. Okay. Talking about money. So this is for labor relations specialists. This is one chart giving you a bit of a snapshot of the overall, pay levels by experience in labor relations. And so not all of those jobs that previously would be included in this, but many of them. And so students, I know when I was teaching, I taught previously at McMaster in labor studies, and there many of the students would go straight into decent jobs that often you don't get finishing university. So things like human resources. We do have a human resources program at York. Some of your TAs come from there, but we have a slightly different approach, but many of the same skills that you would get in that program. And so this is an alternative where you get to really have a sense of, you really learn a broad range of ideas, contemporary ideas, but in a fun way, but come out with a lot of the same skills that you would in a program like human resources. Okay. What does the program look like in terms of the practical nitty-gritty? So a lot of our students are majors or double majors. So I'm trying to think of some past students. So a lot of students will do political science and labor studies, or they'll do environmental studies and work and labor studies, or women's studies and work and labor studies. There's so many programs that really are interlinked. I think 2 years ago, we had in the 4th year course, a lot of students from international development who were in our placement course. And that was a really complementary course, especially in the second and third pathways. We do cover, there's a lot of intersections between international development studies and work and labor studies, or law and society and work and labor studies, or business and society and work and labor studies. So if you're thinking about one of those, think about labor studies as a double major with that program. So for an honors BA, you need 42 credits. And like I said earlier, there aren't a lot of required courses. So there's the first year future of work course. Then there's a second year labor relations in Canada. So looking more specifically at how all of this developed, and a research methods. Other than that, all those other courses that we looked at are 3rd or 4th year courses, and none of which have prerequisites. And they cover a whole range of themes. So you can really mix and match and have, come out with a real good sense of the debates and issues in a range of different topics, and very timely topics at that. All right, and I'm going to end on a more fun note. This is a little video from our Work and Labor Studies field trip that we took to Ottawa in 2020, just before the pandemic hit. We did, weren't expecting that, and we had a really great time. So I'll show you that. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation. You may have questions. Please reach out to either Professor Finelli or myself at any time. We're happy to talk and figure out what works. If you're trying to do a double major or what have you, have questions about career pathways or courses, we're available. So thank you very much. Wishing you all the best in the new year and hoping we all get out of this wave healthy and happy. Okay, thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the program chat, everyone.
If you have any questions about our LA&PS programs, be sure to visit our website to learn more.
And make sure to stay in touch with us for a chance to win a $100 gift card at the York Bookstore. The link to our website is in the description box below.
You can also send your questions to us, the LA&PS Student Recruitment Team.
We'd love to hear from you, so send us an email at goyork@yorku.ca.
And we look forward to seeing you all on campus next year.
Bye.
Bye.